Hello Power Rangers Lightning Collection fans, and welcome back to Lightning Storm. So, this is an extra episode. So I do these every once in a while where it's just basically kind of a topic that's still very much Lightning Collection related, but is not necessarily like a recap of the news for the week or anything like that. What are we here to talk about here today? Well, you probably already saw from the thumbnail, we're talking about Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Once and Always. So, I'm kind of surprised that nobody mentioned that I did not talk about Once and Always in relation to the Lightning Collection in the most recent regular episode of Lightning Storm at the time of this recording. And the whole reasoning for that was that I wanted to do its own dedicated episode to it because I have a lot to talk about with this, and I think it's super cool. So, we've been talking about this kind of the main topic of this episode here since January, since the very first time we got to see any kind of photos of Once and Always, and it's definitely appeared on at least 2 or 3 episodes of Lightning Storm where I discussed this and kind of theorized about this. At the time we didn't know for what reason, but we saw that it looked pretty obvious that the figures were the Lightning Collection figures, or that the props were the Lightning Collection figures, and some of the angles made it really difficult to decide who was there. We were theorizing on who was there. We got most of it correct in terms of trying to figure it out by the very blurry pictures, but we also got it wrong in some regards. Like, I put out this tweet that looks pretty bad now, where I was like, oh, is that Turbo Red right there? No, that was Dino Thunder Red. So it wasn't Turbo Red, which I guess does make sense when we're going to talk about it here and everything. But basically, now that the special is out, and also huge thanks to executive producer Simon Bennett, who actually gave us some very nice behind-the-scenes photos right before the special released, and also has been clarifying and answering questions about the special on Twitter for the last couple of days. So that's been very helpful, and we're going to talk about that here today, because me and Simon Bennett had a little bit of a discussion about it on Twitter. So let's talk about how Lightning Collection was used in Once and Always. So let's first take a look at Ritas Machine in general here. Now, I have nowhere near the room, or the expertise, or the knowledge of how to do something like this, but it would be so cool to like replicate that for a Lightning Collection display. I wouldn't say it's a guarantee, but I could definitely see somebody like MMPR Toys over there, Bruno, putting something together for this, for a video or something. Maybe he's already doing that. That's something that I could see like him doing in content or something like that, but that's really cool. At the very least, I want, at the end of the special, when the Rangers save the Rangers, I love how they just kind of pick up the racks of the Lightning Collection figures and walk away. At the very least, I think it'd be cool to replicate that and, like, you know, recreate the Robo-Snizzard snakes and everything. Oh, by the way, if it wasn't already obvious, spoilers for Once and Always, I'll be putting it in the title of the video, but it's been a couple of days since the special came out, so I assume that you've watched it. But in Ritas Machine here, there are 2 rows, one on the left, one on the right, that could fit 9 Rangers each, but we only ever see both of them fitting 8 Rangers, so don't know if there was ever a plan to fully fill them up. I kind of suspect not, based off of some of the stuff that Simon Bennett said, but regardless, this was really cool. So let's take a look at what Rangers were there, and kind of how this happened, and some other thoughts about it. So on the left, we had Beast Morphers Red, In Space Black, Beast Morphers Gold. Then we had, in the second row, Lost Galaxy Blue, Red, and Green. So Snizzard and Rita and everybody really did quite a number on the Lost Galaxy team. And in the bottom row, we had Dino Thunder Red, a gap in the middle, and Dino Thunder White. And then on the right side, we had in the top row, Mighty Morphin Red, Mighty Morphin Green, and Mighty Morphin Pink. Then underneath them, we had Beast Morphers Blue, In Space Yellow, and Wild Force Lunar Wolf. And then in the bottom row, we had Turbo Phantom Ranger, or In Space Phantom Ranger, a gap in the middle, and then Zeo Yellow. So those were the 16 figures that we saw captured by Robo Rita and Robo Snizzard. It's an interesting lineup for sure. So, and first of all, people are going to be like, are they Lightning Collection figures? Because if you look at Red, Green, and Pink, those don't look like Lightning Collection figures. And I definitely see what you mean by that. And I don't exactly even know what's happening with those 3 in particular. They still definitely are Lightning Collection figures, or being used as props for those ones too, because if you look at Red's helmet, that's definitely the bad visor, helmet sculpt, and everything that we had back in like the original 2019 releases of that figure. Mighty Morphin Green, like, it's really hard to tell. Like, obviously you can't see really like the diamonds not being there under the shield. I think that helmet definitely is that Wave 7 original release where the trim on the side is silver when it's supposed to be white. Mighty Morphin Pink also just looks like a Lightning Collection figure. I can't really tell if it's supposed to be the Wave 2 one, or if it's the Cat one from the 2-pack, or whatever it is, but you can tell they definitely modified these, because especially like looking at the legs, they like covered the joints with like some sort of like rubber or additional plastic or something. Now, conveniently, or I'm sure not conveniently, I'm sure this is the point, most of these, the snizzard snakes that are trapping them, are kind of covering the joints. So like they're kind of covering like the chest joint or the torso, the swivel joint, or especially the knee joints, where it's like very obvious that these are action figures and not actually just like statues of the Rangers frozen and shrunken down. That's a really cool way to do it. And also, I mean, they don't even try to hide it for anything that isn't Mighty Morphin, but they are Lightning figures. The left side that we talked about doesn't get as much like close-up focus as the right side does. So when you look at the right side, especially in Simon Bennett's photos, which I'm sure have already been on the screen here, you can very clearly tell that that is the Lightning Collection figure for like In Space Yellow and Lunar Wolf. And we'll talk about Lunar Wolf. We'll talk about him because, as you all probably know, with the whole fiasco that is the Lunar Wolf Ranger figure in the Lightning Collection, it's kind of funny and ironic that that one was chosen to be here, and we'll get there because, oh, I have something I want to show you guys with that one. But now, the original speculation back in January when we saw this, like when I thought maybe Turbo Red was on here and everything, the idea was, are there figures on here that are not in the Lightning Collection yet? Obviously, as we've just gone over, no, that's not the case here. And so that kind of comes back to the idea of, why these ones? Why is it these Rangers that were picked specifically? So we know that Mighty Morphin Red, Green, and Pink are there. For story reasons, they're just the first 3 Rangers that are captured, but in like actual practicality reasons, the reason why it's Jason, Tommy, and Kimberly is because Jason, Tommy, and Kimberly are the 3 actors who did not return for this special, so we needed to get them out of the equation somehow. Everybody else just kind of seems like, for the most part, a random choice. Simon Bennett was kind of clarifying it. He said these were actually just purchased in California and brought over to New Zealand for the production. So that doesn't necessarily clarify if there was a rhyme or reason to which ones were picked. It also didn't really clarify if Hasbro provided them or if they actually had to like take production money and buy these figures. I'm kind of 50-50 on if that's the case, mainly because every figure that's here you can still get pretty easily at like retail or less, except for Mighty Morphin Green. Dino Thunder White is funny though, because it has the correct visor trim, so either the production fixed that on their own, or they actually had to get a Dino Thunder White that like, and then also go through the replacement helmet program and everything. That's just a whole thing that kind of mystifies me there, is intriguing to me about how that went down. But also, you know, if this was just kind of random, like just go get some figures, which I really doubt that's kind of, I feel like there probably was a sort of plan to this. The choices that are here, except for Lunar Wolf, make a lot of sense, and I really, really do like what's here. So starting with Beast Morphers, they make sense to be a team that would be present here or that would be captured here because they are not the most recent Power Rangers season, of course, because that's Dino Fury, but I think that there's a pretty good reason why Dino Fury isn't here, but Beast Morphers makes sense. You know, it's the most recent one that would make the most sense. I know I just said sense like 4 times there, but what I mean by that is that for Dino Fury, the only figures that they could have had here would be Zato and Izzy, and I don't know exactly what the cutoff here is, but it's, well, no, there's no way that Izzy's figure could be part of this unless Hasbro gave them an early copy of it, because they filmed Once and Always in like September, October, and the first Izzy's didn't start shipping until November, so theoretically it could have been possible for Hasbro to give them one early, I'm sure, but that would explain why she's not there, which means that the only other Dino Fury option would be Zato, and for just the story purposes, we don't know exactly what's going on with the Dino Fury. Now the Cosmic Fury Rangers, we know that they're going to be off-world, so that's probably explaining why they weren't able to even be captured, because they weren't even on the planet. So that makes perfect sense as to why Dino Fury isn't there. So there you go with Beast Morphers. It's the most recent season that would like make sense to be here and be captured in some capacity. And it also explains why Zoe was able to get away, because she's in Wave 13 just like Izzy was, so it would have been too, like, you know, it wouldn't have been enough time for her to be here. We can see that the cutoff of figures seems to be Wave 12 because Lost Galaxy Green was there, so it's just funny to me how like eviscerated the Lost Galaxy team got. And I'm sure, like, it's the same thing to where, like, they couldn't have included the females because Maya and Kendrick's figures were not a thing at this point, so, like, they couldn't have done that. And then they could have put Magnet Defender here. That would have been kind of funny, honestly, if they went that far and, like, had that entire team, basically, except for the girls kidnapped. But Lost Galaxy just really took a beating here, so I just find that kind of amusing. And then Dino Thunder, honestly, I kind of wish that there was more Dino Thunder here. I said in my tweet, I would have preferred for Dino Thunder Blue to be here rather than Lunar Wolf. And the reasoning for that is that, and this is honestly could be a whole video in of itself, I think Dino Thunder is like one of the most important Power Ranger teams in the entirety of the multiverse and in the canon. And also, I have a huge bias because it's my favorite season, but like it would kind of make sense here because like obviously you couldn't put Dino Thunder Black here because, once again, wave constraints, that doesn't exist till wave 14, so it didn't exist in time for the special. But also you wouldn't do that because Tommy's right over there as Mighty Morphin Green. So you already had Connor kidnapped and you have Trent. So it would have been kind of interesting, I think kind of cool, to put Kira and also Ethan there, you know, have all of Tommy's team essentially kidnapped. Because then also you could have filled those two gaps there if you replaced Lunar Wolf with somebody else. So then you have In Space Yellow and also you had In Space Black on the left side of this thing. And those kind of, like any of the Space Rangers kind of make sense. I mean, you could probably also argue that they are also probably off-world. So like, why would they be here to be kidnapped or able to be kidnapped? I'm sure, you know, technically there's nothing stopping Robo Snizzard from teleporting and Robo Minotaur from like teleporting across the universe. But like, just based off of the constraints of the special, it seemed like they probably were really only just focusing on what was going on Earth at the time, because Rita just wants Rangers to kidnap to power the time portal. I'm sure she doesn't exactly care what Rangers they are. So really anyone from in space doesn't technically make sense, but this kind of comes down to like just Lightning Collection constraints on who you could potentially possibly pick. I'm trying to think like, because the only things, because like, you can't pick any of the Zeo Rangers because most of them are either in this special somehow or already on the table somehow, except for Zeo Yellow, because like they did have Tanya kidnapped as kind of the last one to talk about here before Lunar Wolf and Phantom. Phantom is an interesting one. Not only is that just a cool one to see again, some people were bringing up how this absolutely, in the comics have already done this, but this absolutely disproves the fan theory that Billy was the Phantom Ranger, because Phantom's there and Billy is not there because Billy is not captured. So that completely disproves that. I'm sure that wasn't the intention at all, but it's just kind of a fun thing. Power Rangers always, it's one of the things why I love it so much. It always has just very accidental ways of making its canon make sense, and I will always love it for that. And then of course that brings us to Lunar Wolf. So Lunar Wolf is, in my opinion, the worst one that's here. So, because as you all know with Lunar Wolf, the figure is typically wrong. I mean, you can more often than not now find a 6-stripe and silver boot version of him that's more accurate, but he's still never had his holster. So when you use the Lightning Collection as a prop, it means you're going to have, by a good chance, a pretty inaccurate Lunar Wolf Ranger on the screen. And that's exactly what happened. You have a white boot. I can't tell honestly how many stripes it has because of just the snakes covering it, but you have a no holster, white boot, Lunar Wolf on screen in a canon production of Power Rangers. So I guess that look of the suit finally does actually have a purpose for existing. Kind of. But I never thought, ever, that a Lightning Collection error, especially that one, would then end up its way in the show and now be justified, but you can't even give it that because it's not that they just recreated Lunar Wolf's suit and made it look like the Lightning Collection figure. They just used the Lightning Collection figure. So if the figure was just correct, we wouldn't have anything to worry about in the first place. But it's just funny that of all the characters, of all the Lightning Collection figures to pick, Lunar Wolf ended up being there. That has led to a very interesting headcanon. So I spent like an hour and a half last night creating a little like comic or a little fan fiction story, I like to say, of how I think this went down. So I took a bunch of screenshots from one of the Wild Force episodes because, you know, Merrick has always been a lone wolf. That's kind of his thing. So I honestly don't think it's that weird that Lunar Wolf would be here by himself. But I made this whole thing where I had, you know, my headcanon of, oh, they're renovating that bar he always goes to. So, and then he somehow stepped in some white paint. Oh, you silly Merrick. And it just so turns out he's wearing his holster with the, you know, he's wearing the belt with the holster, and I forgot that Merrick did that. So it's not out of the realm of possibility for this specific look to be canon that he would get like ambushed by the putties or whatever. They would steal his holster, and you're probably wondering, how did you know, how does it make sense to where in your little headcanon that Robo Minotaur and Snizzer found him not morphed, because that's how they were tracking the Rangers. They would track them down whenever the Rangers morphed. Well, obviously, it's because he's wearing the belt. He already has a part of his suit on. So they could just track that. That's still a connection to the morphing grid in some capacity. So I have it that the putties take his holster. He still has white paint all over his boots because he accidentally stepped in that paint can. I don't know why. And then he morphs and he gets captured, and there you go. So that is my official headcanon. You cannot tell me otherwise that that's not how it went down, because that is the only reasonable explanation as to why Merrick looks like that within the universe. Obviously, I know exactly why it looks like that, but I just thought that was really funny. So I wanted to put something like that together, and now I love it. I love it a lot. So I just think it's funny that I got to do something like that. But this is cool. So like, in terms of like what other figures could have been picked, well, there's not a lot of options there, because like, one thing that's cool about the options that are here is that every era of Power Rangers is represented in some capacity. You have Saban era Rangers on here, you have Disney era Rangers on here, you even have Hasbro era. The only era that's not represented is Dino Charge. But once again, that makes sense because, well, first of all, Dino Charge is the only team in the Lightning Collection from the Neo Saban era. And second of all, they're in a separate universe, so it would make sense that they wouldn't be kidnapped for this as well. So like, while it may seem random, and maybe it is, the choices here do make sense and are reasonable. The only things I think that they could have added was additional Space Rangers, and additional Dino Thunder Rangers, and Magnet Defender. But I think that's really going to do it here for Lightning Collection discussion in relation to Once and Always. I so hope that we get figures based off of this special. The thing about Lightning Collection is that Hasbro production, from development to release, takes about 12 to 18 months. So I really, really hope that they have already been planning some Once and Always figures. We probably wouldn't get any until like 2024, but I really want some. There's so many good potential things here. Of course, I would love Min as the Yellow Ranger. I mean, it'd just be an easy way for them to sell us like a 50th version of MMPR Yellow. It'd become the new MMPR Pink of releasing them so many times. But give me Robo Rita. That one seems pretty easy to do, especially with the new deluxe one having swappable faceplates. So you could have the broken face and like the regular face, and you can modify that Rita pretty easily into a Robo Rita. Give me Robo Snizzard and Minotaur. Please give me Robo Snizzard and Minotaur, especially because Robo Snizzard literally creates Lightning Collection figures. He would be the perfect Lightning Collection figure. I want him more than pretty much anything right now. Give me Robo Snizzard, especially because it'd be so cool if he came with like snakes that you could wrap around your Lightning Collection figures, because then you could like literally recreate the prop. I want it so bad. It's something that would be like so easy for them to do. Give it to me, give it to me, give it to me, please. I want it. But anyway, I love it. This is going to do it for this episode of Lightning Storm Extra, so hopefully this wasn't too terribly long, and I'm sure I gotta be the person that's talking about that table of Rangers is more than anybody else and more than anybody else ever expected anybody to talk about it, but I really wanted to talk about it. I thought it was super, super cool. I love the Lightning Collection so much. I love this special so much. So like, it just enhanced my enjoyment of it even more. So let me know down in the comments below, what Rangers would you have wanted to see on that table there, and what figures do you want to see from Once and Always? I have legitimately not heard any leaks or any rumors about any actually on the way, any valid or any legitimate rumors anyway, so hopefully that is actually something that they're working on, and if it isn't, you gotta get on it, Hasbro, because there's some money to be made here. So until next time, you guys can follow me on Twitter at LivingRangerKey or LightningFigPR, and I'll see you all in Lightning Storm. This here's where lightning always strikes twice. To wrap up this video, I'd like to thank my $5 and above patrons: Jurassic Samurai, Maggot Alchemist, Robert Browning, Static Thunder, Brendan Overland, Maji Yellow, Redstone MCPC, Comics 1017, James Darty, John Luke, Eric Berry, Tyler Bezetsky, Matthew Thorne, Josh Landry, Pyramidas, CPT Tesla, Cross SCV, Caboose Ed, Socket Monsters, Anthony Love, Daniel Pika, and Hella Geo. You can support Toku Topics for as little as $1 a month on my Patreon, linked in the description below.